Welcome to this provocative and heartfelt podcast where patriarchy is defined as a paradigm that both men and women uphold in different ways. Here you get to listen in on genuine conversations between leaders from around the world to discover more mutual respect and less division, as well as more pleasure and love in your life. My name is Dévashi Shakti, and you are warmly welcome to be part of these Beyond Patriarchal Sex conversations. Well, here we are with a shorter end of year episode with me, Dévashi Shakti. It's a reflective one here at this 30th podcast episode in the first year ever of the Beyond Patriarchal Sex project being shared in the world. And by now, we all know that this is a different approach to discovering conscious relating, and that it goes further than that normally does by naming the paradigm that's been causing relational discord for thousands of years and generations. And unlike most sexuality or intimacy curriculums, this is not just about techniques to have a better or more connected, intimate experience. Because the thing is, millions of women have already done that across the world. They've made those investments into those courses and trainings, and still they find themselves struggling when it comes to bringing those techniques into practice. And this is because until the paradigm of patriarchal sex itself is revealed, it continues to invisibly operate in ways that usually cause women, oftentimes, to blame herself for what she's not happy to go along with, or not knowing still how to change that. And that's what operating under the invisible patriarchal context does to women. It causes her to internalize relational issues. And the more spiritual or more personal growth orientated she is, the more that internalization tends to happen. But because it lands as more invisible labor on behalf of the woman, we've collectively entered the women preferring to be single era. Culturally speaking, this is very much the norm right now. The Beyond Patriarchal Sex project was met with strong reactions from the very beginning, with intrigue and some women excited to find out more, some women wondering if they were being blamed, and some men assuming that they were definitely being blamed, and one man even writing a hate post where he invited hundreds of his followers to critique what they thought I was doing, instead of actually finding out and being curious and present to know what I actually am doing with this project. And that was before the podcast had even started. And since then, professionals around the world have seen value in contributing to this approach with a wide range of guests, all with something important to say and to bring into this collective inquiry of what it is to go beyond patriarchal sex. And if you've been listening along the way, you will have heard me say this before, that calling it just male-centered sex isn't really it, because patriarchal sex is not just an interpersonal dynamic, it's a wider systemic cultural one that has been invisibly operating all over the world. And largely, this whole invisible operation casts men into roles of porn-influenced perpetrators without them even realizing it, consuming women's life force energy, and casting women into subtle or overt expressions of sexual slavery to man's lust and to her own, and where women have also been participating in their own subjugation, mostly if it benefits them economically to do so. This is the norm. This is what's been normalized. And that whole mass hypnosis, or the spell of patriarchal sex, as I call it, it ends up being an insidious web of co-created misery and dissatisfaction, causing mass divide between men and women to the point people can't stand it anymore. And rather what we could be having, which is the mass divine awakening of what going beyond patriarchal sex does actually catalyze. Yes, it's a strong message. No, I'm not apologizing for that. The powerful title is relevant in these times. And primarily, 80% of the listeners are women. And I'm also really grateful for that roughly 20% of guys that are listening in and having the courage to look into this inquiry for themselves as well. I want to let you know that we just finished, well, we've actually almost just finished the 6-month pilot immersion group of a variety of women at all different ages and stages of life. And they're in various different sex and relationship dynamics. Some are married, some have kids, some are single, some are young. They're all exploring very deeply what it takes to live beyond patriarchal sex. And I was able to personally connect with each of those women in our many video calls throughout the last 6 months, listening to their exact starting point and guiding their process to unravel from the whole patriarchal sex paradigm and get closer and closer to being free of it. The outcomes have been incredible, and for some women, actually miraculous. And at the end, there's been tears in recognizing just how far they've come, and also in recognizing the gravity of this exploration in their lives. And all the women have the feeling like they didn't want the group journey to end. And because the group dynamic in the immersion is such a big and impactful part of the whole experience, the official course now, after the pilot group of Living Beyond Patriarchal Sex, is going to still involve some interaction with each other rather than just being an online course that you do entirely on your own. And that official course that women can sign up to anytime, it will be coming out in the new year. Because the reality of learning how to live beyond patriarchal sex is such an ongoing inquiry, participation in this course, it needs to be open-ended. It needs to be an ongoing discussion and a space that you can keep coming back to. And it means that you can get the content to dive into in your own time. And alongside that, we will have live calls so that you can get support to apply the content directly to your individual situation and keep integrating the learning in your actual life, because this is where the most profound shifts happen. It is not just about intellectually grasping the context and the teachings and practices. This is about an actually massive, profound shift that you will feel in your body and you will see impact your partner. For women to continue having that dedicated group space for what really is a revolutionary self-inquiry, we have found out that it's necessary in breaking the spell of patriarchal sex itself in order to not over personalize it and not be tempted to keep doing that, to realize over time how all pervasive the conditions around it are. I mean, to get through all of that, it takes being part of a different culture instead, so that you can thoroughly reverse the spell. And gradually, as you're ready for it, and with my mentoring support and with the chance to hear all the other women sharing and relating to them and hearing the mentoring that they get as well, the result of actual transformation in how you approach sex and intimacy is going to evolve into the more of what's really possible for you. There was a very interesting moment that I want to relay to you from one of our last group calls. And it's the moment that a woman referenced this entire immersion as women wanting more. And for that beautiful woman, I had to pause to reflect back to her. Living beyond patriarchal sex, this is not women wanting more, demanding more. This is the freaking bare minimum. This is the beginning standard that we should be coming from. This is the bare fucking minimum. Do you understand? More is more on from there. Okay, so look out for this course when it comes out because the women from the pilot group are genuinely amazed by how much awareness and education and practical knowledge that they now have compared to the start. It's definitely not a course just focusing on techniques to do in sex. There is some of that, but it's literally the process of breaking the patriarchal sex spell. It gets very practical and it also really breaks down the understanding clear as well. I want to send my heartfelt thanks to all the guests, the speakers who've been on these episodes, who trusted me to enter into this conversation, and my heartfelt thanks to you as a listener who have let me know, if you have along the way, what opening up the discussions from the podcast episodes has done in your relationship, because I've been hearing stories about more creativity, more understanding of each other's male-female experiences or whatever gender you are, more curiosity about what's going on for the other person, and definitely more closeness in long-term marriages where it can feel really awkward to reinvent how you're seeing each other and how you're approaching things intimately. And that's amazing. And also, it's caused single women to rethink their approach, and it's going to help them avoid, and it is helping them avoid years more suffering and confusion because now they're coming at it with this understanding. And there's much more beautiful sharing that some of you have given to me along the way, letting me know how these episodes have touched you. And I'm really grateful to hear about those. So please keep that coming. And here at the end, I want to give you a little orientation to what's coming next in the new year. This message is for the ladies. If you want to fully get in touch with yourself and your body, enter the Tigress Path. Here you become an initiated woman living way beyond patriarchal sex, and also become a safe space for men to learn about patriarchy without the blame. Inside the Tigress Path, we have personal transformation and also professional accredited training options. The links to connect are below with this episode. Many more episodes have already been recorded and are ready to share with you in the coming months. I have more speakers booked in to record with them as well. The Beyond Patriarchal Sex community group on Facebook is a place where a lot of relevant articles with social education on the impact of patriarchy on the culture in personal relationships are being shared. And that posting can be done by me. It can also be done by any member of the group. So everyone is welcome to be part of that. If you come across something online that you think is relevant to share in there, you're welcome to bring it to that space. And a lot of those articles show things that I personally have known about before, but it's also shown me things that I didn't know. And just the way that, even though it can be heavy, to be aware of what's going on and how much it's still going on. You know, here at the end of 2025, it's essential to be aware of this. You know, I mean, especially when so many guys are still saying things like, oh, why are women talking about patriarchy? We're thousands of years on from them. No, we are not. It is still current. And it is still really important to talk about it until it is made visible, because this is what helps put the puzzle pieces together. And when it comes to the Beyond Patriarchal Sex Instagram page, I'll let you know that I want to be using that differently moving forward. So rather than bringing in more of what's going on in society, it's just going to be a dedicated space for messages and expressions of this approach only. And also in the new year, you will see a new Substack page. And in there, I'm going to give more written and articles and audio messages from me that help to more quickly grasp the concept and the context of all of this. And also there's some free gifts coming for women listeners, especially. and some practical guides for couples. There's also a quiz to find out whether you are having patriarchal sex or not. And from there, the steps that you could be taking from there and to get to where you could be. And on a more personal note, I've been reflecting in this end of year time, even though for me, the true new year is the astrological shift into Aries and the shift from year of the horse into, sorry, year of the snake into year of the horse. But even now, at the end of the calendar year, I still naturally take time to reflect, as I'm sure you probably do as well. And I've been asking myself, what's really the most important? Where do I really want to be putting my time and energy the most coming up? And I genuinely really pause to reflect on this because, when I look around what's happening in the world, the geopolitical situation seems so serious, so dire. And I had to ask myself, is this the topic that I really want to keep focusing on now? And my answer is definitely yes, because for individual evolution and for society to evolve, how we relate is everything. And how we relate and who we think we are is constantly being replicated and empowered through the way we have sex, through our own experience of our own sexual energy in our own body, even if we're single. How we perceive each other, whether or not we're able to experience the power of who we are from the inside to get through the challenging times in humanity's years to come. This all depends on how we're using or misusing sexual energy, being such a core part of our lives, whether you're sharing it with someone else or not. This is like the place of the blueprint that keeps getting birthed in your reality and in all of our realities. And so, yes, this is the theme. This is the subject that I am going to be staying connected to and having my attention on. And I don't know if you've ever done those marketing processes where you answer many, many questions and it drills you down into the one main thing that your work is in service to. I've done it myself several times over the years. And what it comes down to for this project, and actually for all of my work with the Tigress Path, is embodying love. So while humanity is moving into such uncharted territory in the coming years, what could be more important than learning how to actually embody love? What could ever be more important? Instead of the lip service in the term making love, while the impression of sex most people are having is often the opposite of love. And with this whole personal and collective inquiry leading to embodying love, that's where everything beautiful and worthwhile and lasting comes from, that frequency and that level of consciousness. And it's not about arriving at some perfect place. It really is more about the freeing of ourselves and of each other from outdated ways of being and forging actual real intimacy in our bodies throughout the process. And I want to keep this episode here reflective and shorter, but I also really want to let you know the details of the women that have just been completing the 6-month immersion and what they're saying about it, because the results that have actually come into their lives and relationships are just so profound. And I actually have their permission to share their exact words, which are very confidential, really, anonymously. And I really feel grateful to be with these women and with any women who have the courage to explore what happens when they realize that them and just about everyone else has been living under a spell, a dark spell on humanity that's been obstructing our ability to create from our highest in this world. And so in the next episode, I will be sharing those private conversations with you that happened in the immersion and the realizations and the real things that have happened between them and their partners. And what I've had confirmed about myself personally in this whole podcast process is that with my Scorpio Leo personality, I have found more strength in me to handle being projected onto, if that's what it takes, to make visible into collective awareness what has been invisible for hundreds of generations that have come before us, and not watering down the title to avoid discomfort in anyone, because actually the discomfort is already there in the patriarchal sex paradigm itself. And everyone's just dancing around it, tiptoeing on eggshells around it. So, what I'm sharing to become clear of that paradigm in your body, in your mind, in your life, in your sex, and your relationships, you can expect me to keep shaking up that matrix in 2026 by taking this project further and wider. You'll see me speaking on other people's podcasts as a guest. I'm going to be in the process of writing the book, and more will come. And you know what? I think people really are ready to enter this conversation, even if they hesitate at first. Because with there being such a major turning point in human relationships in the past year, 2 years, especially, would you say? If it's a choice between women conforming to the patriarchal relating paradigm or feeling free to keep her own energy for her own well-being, and all the women choosing to be single right now, I think more women than ever before really are ready for this conversation, even if some education is inevitably going to be needed to really understand it. This is the conversation that a lot of people are trying to have without naming it directly. And you know what? I'll name it directly. I don't mind. And as you know by now, I'm not coming from a place of just validating women moving away from men and the paradigm that isn't working for them and leaving men out in the cold. That's not the outcome here. What I'm offering is a way out of that separation, a way out of that loneliness between the genders, a way out of this inevitable decline of society and culture and birth rates that Korea is literally going through right now. And it's all going to be happening through understanding what it takes to live beyond patriarchal sex. And that's what I actually teach when I'm not talking right here on this podcast. And how I do that is with the Tigress Path practices for women. And now there will also be this very specific course to invite women into the continual inquiry of living beyond patriarchal sex in that official course as well. So thank you again for your courage to listen in on this collective inquiry and to make it your personal inquiry if you're brave and if you're feeling like you've had enough of tolerating what you don't want. Because, women are collectively leading this change in human relationships away from conforming to the misogynistic frame. And that is the saving grace of this current separation between men and women, I believe, because it's like there has to be a pause, a collective pause from what has been for 5,000 or so years as we cultivate ourselves into the version of what's really possible in sex. And I know it can seem like a mass breakdown is going on across the world when looking at all the awful cases of harm and abuse, but actually, I see it as a collective awakening process. And I'm happy to keep exploring that with you throughout 2026. So I'm really glad you're here, and I'm inspired to know that there is going to be a space for all the women listeners to get together in real time, sometimes in a really personal way, to thoroughly unravel yourself in the most practical ways from the patriarchal sex paradigm, so that you can be living in your most natural alignment within your body, within yourself, and with whoever you want to share yourself with. Whenever I'm out socially and a friend asks, Dévashi, how can I get my partner into this exploration about living beyond patriarchal sex? My answer is exactly what I've put down in the show notes for you with this episode. And if you are willing to be the spell breaker of your bloodline and have the uninhibited pulse of Eros guiding you through life, beyond the matrix into the fullness of your divine sovereignty, then keep tuning in to these weekly episodes and share it with your friends. And may we all be free from suffering.